Hi, I'm Dani Johnson, and we so are grateful for you being a part of the DaniJohnson.com community. Hey, have you spent any time on Facebook recently on our page? Listen, I know you probably spent some time on Facebook, but get on over and get connected with this awesome community on Facebook. There are thousands, tens, actually over 100,000, pushing 120,000 people that are on Facebook who are just like you, who have real live issues that they're breaking through. They're paying off their debt. In fact, check this out. I just finished with a group of people who have paid off, 168 people who just reported to us that they paid off $14 million worth of debt in an average of 15 months. I want to talk to you about the fear of loss. Wow, is that a big ol' sucker and a massive hinderer. I recently was speaking on a stage with about 1,000 people, not our audience, but a different audience. There's a private corporate event that I had gotten invited to. And whoa, man, it brought back a reminder of some other groups that I've actually spoken with in the religious sector. I find that there's a lot of businesses, a lot of people from the religious world, and a lot of people just in general that carry the fear of loss. The fear of loss is rather sneaky, and it's very tangible. You see, the fear of loss hinders you from being free. It's actually bondage. When I was there was some people who are saying, "Oh, no, be careful. You know, we don't want to offend anybody. We make sure we don't want to mention anything about any color of people's skin, or any kind of race, and we certainly don't want to offend anybody about this product or that product, and we don't want please don't talk about how you were judged by those other people because we don't want to offend anybody." Oh, and we definitely don't want to bring up anything about the government because we don't want to offend anybody. And, yeah, and please, we only want you to say these good things because we don't want to offend anybody. Oh, boy. Well, it's no small wonder that most organizations that carry the fear of loss have already lost. The fear of loss leads to loss. The fear of loss will always lead you to losing. The fear of loss will never lead you to gaining. If you are afraid of losing money, you already lost money. If you're afraid of losing time, you've already lost time in thinking about losing time. If you're afraid of losing people, you already lost people. Because what you fear most will happen. And the fear of loss is so sneaky, so crafty, that it actually controls your mouth. It controls your tongue. And it only lets out half-truths. Yep, half-truths, which are lies. That's not the full truth. And people today want the truth. They've bought lies for decades. They want somebody who's going to tell the truth. They want somebody that's not going to fear man and fear offending people. Listen, every single great move that has ever happened in this world, and every single great man or woman who's ever done anything powerful and historical that history is still talking about, was not afraid of losing anything. In fact, they risked their lives. Fear of loss is a hinderer. It's not your friend. Quit coddling it. Quit babying it. The fear of loss is, I'm afraid, if I get started in this career over here, I'm afraid I might lose the respect of my friends. You already lost the respect of your friends by fearing that. You're already done. Oh, but I'm afraid of what people are going to think. I'm afraid I'm going to lose, goodwill with people. What do you think they think of you already? Listen, you're thinking much higher of yourself than you ought. Free people are not afraid of losing anything. The fact is, if you're going to succeed in anything, it's going to take risk. And yes, you will lose some, but the gain on the other side is so much bigger than the little that you will lose. So you remember in one of the past videos I was talking to you about fear in general and about using the strategy of spite against it? That fear of loss that wants to control your tongue, like, I have to make sure that I'm always pleasing people. I did that once. Oh my gosh. Not once. I've done it several times. But I got to tell you, it actually put me into a deep depression because I would try my best to please everybody. I mean, everybody. I changed my personality. I took like a Valium to my boldness. I covered my boldness up because it offended people. I decided to change the way I looked because my very presence offended people. Then I started to change how I talked because the way I talked seemed to have offended people. I changed the way I walked because the way I walked seemed to offend people. You see, whenever I'd get these comments from insecure people, people who had no character, people who had their own issues from their own past, I let them determine how I was going to live. It's actually what caused me to retire for 4 years. And in that retirement, I was so depressed. I was so lost. And I was so confused. I didn't even know who I was anymore. And it wasn't until I heard my husband stand up for me one day. In a setting, actually, where, it was in a religious setting. The pastor of a church that we were going to and one of the elders who I was giving my testimony that I was no longer going to be afraid of being judged by people who were here, but I had to stand up for what I knew was right and tell the truth. That the judgment from the church in the past had hurt me so deeply that it caused me not to say anything anymore. And I'd given a testimony that I was done with that and I'm going to tell the truth. And right away, that pastor and that elder came and, shh, don't talk about judgment. Nobody judges here. Ha! What were they smoking? I know that's terribly offensive, but really? Yeah, nobody in that church judges? That would be in heaven, not here on planet Earth. I don't care how great the church is. Wherever there are people, there are judgmental people. That's the facts. So they did. They quieted me down really fast. Don't do that. And Hans asked for a meeting with them. And here's what came out of that. He sat the pastor down and he said, listen, if you ever have anything that you feel in your heart that you need to talk to my wife about, you're going to come to me. I'm her covering. And he began to have tears in his eyes. And he said, I watched my wife for years change who God made her to be. I watched her take her boldness and cover it up. I watched her change the way she talked. I watched her change the way she walked. I watched her transform into someone that she wasn't. And as Hans's face was turning red and he had tears in his eyes, he says, you will not do that to her again. He said, I watched her die. And why? Because her heart desires to help people so much. And she thought that was the course of action she had to take in order to help people. I will not allow my wife to be spoken to. It's going to go through the filter of my heart as I am her head. So if you have something to say, you're going to come to me because God made her bold. And when she speaks, truth is what comes out of her mouth. And those in darkness don't like it. And that day when she spoke her testimony, there were many in tears in that room because they suffered from the same judgment of the church. Those people were set free that day and did what she said, to forgive and no longer be afraid. Listen, the fear of loss is actually what is the cap from keeping you from growing. The fear of loss is the walls that you've built up around you to keep you stuck and imprisoned. Get out of that prison. Don't be afraid of losing It's time to step out and be who you were called to be and go for it with everything you've got. You will make mistakes and you will learn as you go. But there is nothing worse than allowing the fear of loss to create a prison for you. So go be free and say, man, I wonder what I will gain instead of what you're afraid of losing. God bless you. I hope this helped you today. If it did, please write a comment and let us know that it's helped you. And share this with other people. There's so many people who have hindered their lives because of the fear of loss, as well as all the other fears that I was talking to you about earlier. And if you haven't heard all the videos on fear, make sure you go and you find them. And share this with other people. Don't keep this to yourself. Someone gave it to you. Now you turn around and give it to somebody else. God bless you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.